Okay, so something huge is happening right now across the African continent. We're not talking about a small change. We're talking about a quiet revolution. It's this massive shift, right? Moving away from just using technology to actually becoming the architects of their own digital future. And right at the heart of all of this, you guessed it, artificial intelligence. So that number you're looking at right there, that's the prize. An estimated $1.5 trillion. That's what AI could add to Africa's economy by 2030. I mean, this is way more than just a number on a slide, right? It's the potential for a genuine continental leapfrog. But, and this is a big but, unlocking all of that, well, it's not going to be simple. This whole transformation really hinges on a single core challenge. We're calling it the development governance paradox. Here's what that means. On one hand, you desperately need rules and regulations to stop a new age of, well, data extraction. But on the other hand, you've got these huge gaps in the actual infrastructure and the money you need to even get the innovation off the ground. So the question becomes, how do you regulate a revolution that you're literally still trying to build? So how do you even begin to solve a paradox like that? Well, the continent's not trying to do it piecemeal. The answer starts with a unified vision, not a bunch of fragmented efforts. We're talking about a master plan straight from the African Union designed to do something pretty incredible. Get 55 very different nations all pulling in the same direction. And look, this isn't just some tech strategy document. It's way bigger. It's more like a societal blueprint. The AU's plan covers the whole shebang, fostering local talent, managing risks, securing funding, promoting collaboration, all of it. See, they're not just looking to import AI, they're building an entire ecosystem, basically from the ground up. And this right here, this gets to the very heart of the ambition. The goal isn't just to use AI, it's to achieve what they're calling operational technological sovereignty. So what does that actually mean? In simple terms, it means developing, owning, and controlling their own homegrown AI, an AI that's built for local needs and reflects local values. So why is that sovereignty so critical? Well, get this. A staggering 99.98%, basically all, of the internet's content isn't available in African languages. Now think about that. If AI is trained almost entirely on data that doesn't represent the people, how can it possibly serve their needs? It can't, and that one stat right there shows you exactly why having local data and local models is absolutely essential. And it gets even deeper than that. This quote really nails the core fear here, this idea of a new data colonialism. It's the risk that Africa's most valuable new resource, its data, ends up being controlled by a handful of global corporations. The entire AU strategy really is a direct pushback against that. It's designed to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, so a big continental plan is a powerful start, for sure. But the real story, the exciting part, is how this all unfolds on the ground. So let's zoom in a bit and look at how some of these pioneering nations are actually bringing this vision to life, because each one has its own unique playbook. I mean, just look at the contrast between these two. On one side, you've got Egypt. They're going with a powerful state-led model. The government is building the infrastructure and setting pretty firm rules. Then, on the other side, you have Kenya. They're taking a completely different approach, using their advantage in green energy to attract data centers and create an innovation hub, all with a much more flexible, soft regulatory style. So you have two leaders, two totally different game plans. And then, of course, there's Nigeria. You can't talk about this without talking about Nigeria. Their strategy is built on these 5 incredibly ambitious pillars, right? They're talking about building infrastructure, creating a world-class ecosystem, speeding up adoption, ensuring it's all ethical, the whole package. They're not just trying to get a seat at the table, they're building a plan to leverage their huge population and talent pool to become a genuine world-class AI hub. And this is where all that ambition starts to look like reality. Check this out. Nigeria has developed the first government-backed large language model that's an LLM that actually speaks local languages like Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo. I mean, this is a huge step. This is technological sovereignty in action. It's how you make AI truly inclusive and actually relevant to the culture. Okay, but even the most brilliant strategies are just ideas on paper without a physical foundation, right? So let's talk about the nuts and bolts for a minute. The actual data centers, the undersea cables, and the power grids that will either make this revolution possible or stop it in its tracks. So right now, the continent is in the middle of a massive digital construction boom. We're talking about data center capacity, that's the raw computing horsepower you need for AI, and it's projected to more than quadruple by 2030. This isn't just steady growth, folks. This is a frantic, all-out build of the very foundation for an AI-powered future. And what's fueling this incredible boom? Well, think of it like massive new data highways. You've got these new subsea cables, like Google's Equano, landing on African shores, and they are game changers, doubling internet speeds, slashing prices. These cables are basically the arteries that are feeding this whole digital expansion.
But there's a huge vulnerability here, a really big one. You can have all the fancy data centers and super fast cables in the world, but if the lights go out, none of it matters. And this quote just captures it perfectly. Chronic power grid instability, that is the single biggest threat to this whole expansion. It is, without a doubt, the Achilles heel of the entire operation.
Which brings us to the final, and maybe the biggest hurdle of them all. You knew it was coming, right? It all comes down to money. And we're talking about a truly massive amount of it. This is the $500 billion question that's going to decide whether this whole transformation succeeds or just stalls out. The numbers here just lay out this stark reality. To make all of this happen, to fully implement the vision, we're talking about needing up to $500 billion. So what are the current commitments? A tiny, tiny fraction of that. This is the investment gap. It's this giant chasm between the incredible dream and the money needed to actually make it real.
So what's the plan? How do you even begin to close a gap that big? Well, the African Development Bank and the UNDP have launched a pretty audacious response. It's called the AI 10 Billion Initiative, and its one and only purpose is to start pulling together the serious, big-time capital that's needed to turn that continental blueprint into a reality. And so, that's where we land, right back at the central question that hangs over this entire incredible story. Look, the continent has a unified strategy. It has brilliant pioneers at the national level, and it even has a plan to start finding the money. But the big question remains, can it successfully navigate that core paradox? Building the future and regulating it at the exact same time. To pull off a truly historic digital leapfrog? I guess the next decade is going to give us the answer.